Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. Hello there. I'm having a little bit of a postnatal drip issue today, so I apologize in advance if there's any sort of snarkling going on. Anyway, it's Friday. Seems how on Monday, Friday seems so far away, and then it gets here relatively quickly. And the good news is that tomorrow is Saturday, and a front is coming through, which will release us from this primordial, humid, torrid, oh man, weather. Actually, I'm doing pretty well with this weather. I'm in a kind of zen mode about it and have been fine. I feel discombobulated today. That's another fair warning. Got some good stuff to share with you. I was just looking at some emails. And I'd like to share one from Ed, who said, I felt a need to write. Ed doesn't write often, but he feels needs, and every once in a while, there he is. I appreciate it. He says, do you remember the column Phil Music used to write? Do you remember Phil Music? Phil Music was a marvelous reporter. And in fact, the first sports editor of USA Today. And he was a reporter for the Post-Gazette. And he was a radio talk show host on WTAE AM, along with moi and Doug Hirth in the good old days, and Ann Devlin, when we had just this remarkable lineup and eclectic mix of people. Phil Music, God, they're all gone. I can't stand it. Anyway, I felt the need to write again. Do you remember the column Phil Music used to write? Things I think I think. Every once in a while he would. This is frankly, when columnists have something called Things I Think, or something like that, that is when they can't for the life of them think of a full column. You know, they can't. That is the hardest job, by the way, to keep writing a column. When I look at how, columnists who put out as much, some 3 a week, I don't know how you do that. I really don't. I mean, and be really good at it, have those columns be worth reading. But when you come up sort of empty, then you can do sort of a grab bag thing. So you do little things and can fill a column that way. And that's what Things I Think was for Phil Music. But Ed brings that up to say that that's essentially what he's doing in this letter. And he goes on to say, you discussed Florida's kill a black man law the other day. That's what I call stand your ground. This made me think about the Zimmerman defense. They did not utilize the stand your ground law in their defense because clearly Zimmerman was the aggressor and Trayvon was the person standing his ground. Another thought, Ed says, cynical though it may be, did the prosecutors give it their all? From all of the accounts I heard, Zimmerman was made out to be the person defending himself. They allowed the defense to define the situation and made no effective rebuttal. Were they outgunned, pun intended? Was their case that weak, or did they not see the real need to do their job? You know, again, and I must say, having been called on the carpet by another of you about opining with great emotion on this verdict and yet admitting that I hadn't really followed the trial. So I don't want to, I didn't watch it. I wasn't reading about it. It was too the whole thing has been too painful for me from the moment it happened. And I had this sick feeling in my gut from the moment it happened that George Zimmerman would walk. I just didn't want to invest any more emotion than I thought I could handle. At any rate, it occurred to me that, you know, just because somebody is a prosecutor doesn't mean they're a brilliant courtroom lawyer. And Sanford, Florida is not like a big city, right? I mean, I don't know. There's lots of jurisdiction in which the DA is a lightweight, and the assistant DAs are perhaps lightweight. I have no idea. My guess is, knowing that this was a hugely watched trial, that anybody who was a major player in it would pull out all the stops to do a good job. So my sense is that they did their best, but their best might not have been up to snuff. Again, that's just a possible explanation. I also do understand from some of the reading I've done post-verdict that the coroner or their forensic, their expert apparently just was a bumbling nitwit compared to the one that the defense put out there. And so they got outgunned on expert witness testimony. And then you had, the cop, the cop who was supposedly a witness for the prosecution, essentially saying that he believed George Zimmerman, which would put a bit of a dent in their case. Don't forget the jury, because we've already heard from one of them, and it's quite clear that that woman has all the filtering, prejudicial baggage that so many white Americans carry around in their heads and don't even recognize that it's there. And you saw in her interview indications of that, how she was very willing to believe George Zimmerman and find him a man with a heart in the right place. And Trayvon, you could see she couldn't relate to him and was willing to believe the worst. He threw the first punch. She knew it. No one had any evidence to that effect. So, I mean, I just think... And then other people, like legal people who manage to keep emotion out of these things, looking at the law, looking at what the judge let in and what the judge let out, looking at the judge's instructions to the jury, that given what they had, you could argue also that a jury, beyond a reasonable doubt, maybe would not. Although manslaughter... At least manslaughter, you would think. But no. Last thought. says Ed. Where was the uproar over the travesty of justice in the O.J. trial? What? Ed, there was uproar. You don't remember that? I was a talk show host. I did myself uproar for about 3 weeks after. I mean, it was constant. So I don't know what you mean by that. Where was the uproar over the travesty of justice in the O.J. trial? Zimmerman was every bit as dirty as O.J., but the black community celebrated when he was acquitted. Why aren't I following you here? You can't have things both ways. I see. Okay, I get it. Well, I listen, I'm wearying of this because it takes us back always to America's racial divide and how African American perception of our justice system and of our police and of the fair shake they can expect in it is understandably very, very low. They have no faith in the system, and they have historic reason not to. So I never understood the celebration of O.J.'s acquittal, but it could just be that a black man beat the system just like white men always do. And he could afford incredibly expensive defense attorneys, and he was able to game the system like rich white people do. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was just, I don't know. I don't pretend to know. But in regard to this idea of black, yeah. Hello, caller.
Yes, I'd like to speak to Lynn if I could.
This is she.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine.
Hey, Lynn, I was thinking about racism and how this is in this country. It's something pretty ironic. Think about this. Think of the people that you know who are racist. Maybe you're... I don't know if you know people who are racist, your friends or family. I have some people in my family that are.
I do too.
Think about this. If they were, they're probably white, right? If you're
Yes.
a family.
Yeah, they
Think
are.
about the people who are most racist. If they happen to be born black, imagine how those people would be if you could change, and they would come back as a black person. Those white people who don't like black people for any reason and try to find fault with that, whatever they do, if they happen to be born black, they would be the meanest, most craziest people. And I would, because if I was black, I don't know what I would do. I mean, you got so many cards against you.
You got that right.
And you're such. I just wouldn't want to be born black.
No, I have said this before. I would not be able to contain my rage if I were black. I don't know that I would survive. I don't, and a black man, I don't know.
I mean, I couldn't imagine having a teenage black son. I mean, what would you do? I happen to interact with the black community with a job I have, and I always talk to the people, and I say, I don't know how I would be so afraid if I had a teenager or a young adult, because anything can happen, and they can basically take you out, and they can say, well, stand your ground, or now we have the castle doctrine. Any reason anybody comes in my yard and I perceive them as a threat, I can shoot them.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people think, and that's what the country's become. We're like cowboys and Indians here.
Yeah. I'm completely with you, and I'm loath to get personal here, but I am the mother of a non-white son.
That's right.
And he is he got through his teenage years, but he's early 20s, and we were talking about this last night. It does worry me. I have had to talk to him about how people perceive him and how police might perceive him. And his life experience has shown him the racism that comes his way. He's been called every name in the book.
What the hell? I mean, I can't fathom this. It makes me feel bad for our country that we have people in this country that act like this. And I mean, how could you talk to someone who? We're all foreigners from some degree, and what the hell is wrong with people?
I don't. They're afraid. People
They're
are just
exactly
afraid.
Right. Exactly
they're
right.
afraid of anything they don't
exactly.
know or
Black
comprehend,
or
anything that's
you
different.
You don't know anything about, you don't run into.
Right.
You say, well, it must be bad because I don't know anybody who is black. So Fox News tells me on TV that all the black people are bad, and then you got, well, I'll get on just my soapbox for 1 minute to say something positive, Lynn. You mentioned film music today, and that's what led me to call you, was the time, there was a show you had on the radio years ago, and this is the, if I could think of any superstars of, I love talk radio, but not the way it is now, but in the old days, you had a show on, it was you, Doug, Phil, and Ann.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell everybody, that was like the, like Babe Ruth, you know, all the different superstars, they were there.
Thanks.
And the radio to me was the pinnacle of talk radio, because people would be intellect. It wasn't all, now it's just, they just sling mud and everybody talks. Like you mentioned yesterday, and I was telling my friend, that everybody's outraged about something. Everybody about everything. Everything outrages everybody. They're outraged at this and they're outraged. I knew the Zimmerman thing. I didn't follow it too much because I knew everybody wants to stir the pot up of racism. I know what this is about. This is about Fox News and ratings, and they're hoping that something does stir over. Maybe something would happen. Maybe something would erupt, and then we could say, "Look at the black people. Look what they're doing. They're fighting. They're causing riots." They were hoping. They kind of like throw little bombs out, but not. You can't see them, but they're not. And then they'll say, "What do you know what you're talking about? We don't promote racism here. We don't promote." They do. The radio talks, the radio shows.
Yeah.
You listen to the radio shows. It's just constant stirring that pot up. So see if we can get something stirred up. We can get maybe something riled up. And the people who are intellectual, it's like feeding the ducks, though. You know, the people who are not very bright, it's like feeding them Pabla, garbage food. And the people come running to, what do you have? What kind of garbage do you have for me today? Come running like the ducks come running. And then people feed it to them. Fox News and those type of people feed you all that poison. And then everybody gets stirred up and they think, yeah, it's right. There's people coming to get my money, my tax money. They're going to get I'm paying taxes for people to live, to get food to eat, to go to get health insurance, Obamacare. We don't want Obamacare because what if somebody gets insurance that they didn't pay for? That's not fair. What if they didn't work for that? What if they're handicapped and they can't work but they're going to get health insurance? People think in their brain they don't deserve it. The black people don't deserve it. Homeless people don't deserve health care.
Right. They
if
think,
you don't work hard like, quote, unquote, they do,
right.
You don't deserve health insurance.
Right.
That's a privilege for you to have health insurance. Meanwhile, we have the highest cost for health care in the world, and our education costs are going to be through the roof. The two pillars of the foundation of this country is healthcare and education.
And both systems.
What's being crumbled, what's being knocked down.
Right, but education and education and healthcare, and both of our systems are corrupted totally. Don't work.
It's smashed. The rich have figured out. Here's what's happened, and I know you got to go. You got a lot of people listening. The insurance companies pump money into these. I keep saying Fox News because I think that's the mouthpiece of the Republican Party. But whatever, they're trying to tell people that you don't want Obamacare because that means the health insurance companies aren't going to become rich off the fat of the people. And if Obamacare is trying to stop that, but for some reason they've and I give the Republicans credit for this. They've reframed the question to make it look like Obama is going to be making. I don't know what he's going to become the multimillionaire because Obamacare he's going to be the king. But he doesn't. How's he going to make money? I always say, how's he going to make money on health care?
Oh, I feel your pain.
I mean, I go insane, and I said, I don't know what the hell to do.
I understand, and everything you've said, I could say, and I understand. I have no answers for you, none. That's how I see things too.
And so I listen to you, Lynn, maybe for insight.
Well, I thank you. I thank you for your thoughts.
I'll keep listening, man. Maybe you'll figure it out. Once you figure it out, please let me know.
I will. I'll be there. You'll be the first one.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. But speaking about the caller's fantasy about, if all these racists in my family could all of a sudden be reborn as black people, and, to give them some sense of what we're like to be black in this country. And I'm reminded of this paragraph, 3 sentences I read to you yesterday, written by David Simon, who is the author, the creator of the extraordinary television series The Wire, and who also had been a criminal. He covered crime for the Baltimore Sun as a reporter. And he said this. Why does everybody call when I'm just about to say hello?
Yes, this is somebody who was born a black guy.
Yes, you were, Clarence.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's different when you're born. Now, if you might not be able to handle it if you were turned black overnight.
Yes.
But when you're born black,
it's what you know. Yeah, it's what you know.
Yeah, you adapt.
Yes.
To the situation. You'll be by the time you are at the age you've been adapted.
Well, you react to this paragraph I was just about to read, and because I so agree with it. This is Simon writing. If I were a person of color, in Florida, I would pick up a brick and start walking toward that courthouse in Sanford. Those that do not, those who hold the pain and betrayal inside and somehow manage to resist violence, these people are testament to a stoic tolerance that is more than the rest of us deserve. I confess their patience and patriotism is well beyond my own. I so feel that too.
There was, and forgive me for quoting the Reverend Al Sharpton.
No,
I believe it was the 2000 speech. He was talking about, during the Democratic Convention, when he was talking about Ray Charles singing "America the Beautiful," with "Purple Mountain Majesty from sea to shining sea,
yes.
amber waves of grain."
Yes, that one.
He says he's blind; he's never seen these things. But he knows the idea. I'm paraphrasing big time.
Yeah.
But it was a good line.
Yes.
And that's basically what it is. For some reason, and who knows why, and I guess it's these little, pink, little steps. There's that hope for the future, and there's also where else you going to go. Now, when you're talking about, if it was me, I was going to go pick up a brick and throw at the courthouse. Black people know you pick up a brick and throw it at the courthouse, you're getting shot. You're not going to do that. You're going to jail for throwing a brick. That's what's going to happen to you. You're not going to do that. And that's part of it, too. Any type of violent outrage could end up in your imprisonment or your death. So you can't do stuff like that. You can basically complain on Facebook and it's over with.
Well, as the trial showed, just walking to your dad's place, with Skittles, it can also lead to your death. You don't have to pick up a brick or, be menacing. You just have to be.
Just have to be. Do you remember when you first talked about that law, stand your ground law? I called and said, I was born a threat. I can't go to Florida.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I said I can't go to Florida. That's crazy.
So, Clarence, this is interesting with you because you have, and for those who don't know, Clarence and I have been having a conversation for, maybe 25.
It's over 20 years now.
Yeah, it's well over 20 years.
Yeah.
And you're the one who more than anybody else, put in my head that the whole idea of race is an absurdity, and how you yourself refuse to even, you say you're a member of the human race. That's the only race you
I like to say Pangean because it's funny.
Okay, that's true. But I mean, human, Pangean, whatever. The fact is you can feel that way, but you're living in a country in which the vast majority of people see you as black. That's it. It doesn't matter what you're saying.
I understand that. I intellectually understand that. But my superior, my knowledge trumps that. And I just had a conversation it was a Facebook page that my cousin runs about that yesterday. I said, now, there's only one way to end racism, and that is to end race. The race concept is no more than like 200 years old. It was basically thought up to give people to lose guilt or something like that for enslavement. Basically, it. That's why they thought it up. Yes, but the only way you're going to stop it is to keep pushing at that thing. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. It was something that was thought up. It's almost like saying, "Hey, look, we got a picture of the Earth. It's round." But all this time it's flat, and I'm comfortable with flatness, and and people think it's flat, and that's fine, and it's been that way forever. No, you have to start somewhere. I know it's not going to end in my lifetime, but, and I said this on that page too. I said, with the internet and transportation, and people learning more about other people, and being able to have these blended families and whatnot, and that's where it's going to start. And this all started under that Cheerios commercial controversy with the mixed race family.
Yes.
Have you seen that commercial?
I have seen it. It's such a wonderful commercial.
Yeah. This whole thing started with under that. I said that, and and then
for those who don't know, I mean, this is when the little girl asks her mom, "Is it true that the Cheerios helps your heart?" And the mom says yes. And then the little girl goes to where her father is sleeping, and she puts Cheerios on his shirt where he's sleeping to help. But one of the parents was white, and the other parent was black.
They did it the wrong way, too. If the mother was black, it would have been a lot less controversial.
This is true. That is true.
Somebody they showed that commercial to some kids. And they're looking at like, what do you guys? What's the problem?
Right, of course. Of course.
Have you seen that?
No.
I'll put it on. I'll put it on your Facebook.
But of
page.
course, so
it's
there's
cool.
So there's hope that our younger generations don't have quite the taint that happened to all of us growing up when we did. And as I said, and I'll say it again, we got to wait for an awful lot of white people to die off. Although my son said last night, he said, "I got news for you. Their children are no better."
Yeah, because I'll just give you one quick example, and it's going to seem not that way. It's like as an example, but it is. College-age kid during the Canonsburg 4th of July parade, hanging out with a bunch of guys I went to school with and their families. One of the sons brought this kid with him to this 4th of July parade. And the kid says to me, my man. I'm just standing there taking pictures of the parade. My man. Taking pictures of the parade. I'm like, are you talking to me? He said, yeah. I'll get you a beer if you give me one of those cigarettes. I said, listen, young man. I said, first of all, I'm not your man. Old enough to be your father. You could say, excuse me, sir. Secondly, I've known these people longer than your friend here has been alive. I'll get a beer if I feel like it. I don't need you to offer me one. And I said, thirdly, here's a cigarette. I don't need a beer. Are you old enough to smoke?
So you gave this
but
child
that's
a
that
cigarette?
Disrespect that kid didn't even realize he was giving me, huh?
No, he didn't know that was...
He had no idea,
he
but he knows
was being
now.
friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, well... Oh, Lord. It takes a
But yeah,
village,
there's not as many, trust me.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes a village. So thank you for your input into
no
that
problem.
young man's, growth.
Have a good weekend.
Oh, yeah. It's always good to hear from you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. I have to take a break. I want to tell a story. that I was told last night by a black friend that happened right downtown here in Pittsburgh within the last month. And it speaks to, again, the police and the black community. How the black community, you know, where you might tell your child, if you're white, if you're in trouble, you go find a policeman. Can a black parent say that to their child? I'll tell you this story after.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
I can resist everything except temptation. Picked Theatre brings Oscar Wilde's classic play of good manners and bad behavior to the Charity Randall Theatre at the Stephen Foster Memorial in Oakland. But hurry, because the delights continue only until July 27th. If, like Oscar, you are easily satisfied with the best, call Picked Theatre at 412-561-6000 to book your tickets to this classic and charming summer temptation.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for the Clarks, Bad Company, Billy Gardell, Frankie Valli, Adina Menzel, Brian Wilson, and Leonard Skinner. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, so my friend, who is African American, was downtown with two little girls. And the police were arresting a white guy. I'm going to use the racial thing so you get a picture. So we have a black woman, two black children. Actually, I'm not sure if the children, I think the children are both black. Yes, they're black. And then they see the police arresting some white guy. And one of the little girls says, what is happening? And my friend said, that man is being arrested. And the child said, what does that mean? And my friend sees another police officer who's not one of them standing over here talking to two black men. And as she said, let's ask this police officer. He'll explain it to you. Jess just said, that's a terrible idea. Well, it shouldn't be. She approaches the white police officer, talking to the two black men, and they were laughing and talking about the pirates or something. And she said, excuse me, sir, but this child just asked me a question, and I thought you could answer it. What does being arrested, what happens when you're arrested? What does that mean? She wants to know. And she had approached the police officer from his side. He did not look at her. He, out of the corner of his eye, clearly was seeing her. He did not acknowledge her question or the presence of the children. He did not say anything. He just took his hand and went like this. Like dismissing her. Just get out of here. It was all just this wave of the hand like this. She said she was so astonished and embarrassed in front of the children. And that she, again, asked, I'm sorry, I just want it. And he said, he turns to her and says, didn't I just tell you to move over there? And she's thinking, No, you didn't tell me to move over there. And she thought that's what she wanted to say to him, but she's making calculations now. Oh boy, if I say another word, he's going to arrest me. What's going to happen to these little girls that I thought I was? What am I? And so she just sort of, like faded away as he had told her to. And she was left to explain not just what getting arrested means to those two little girls, but why the police officer acted like he did. How do you do that? How do you do that? I don't know. Okay. What else I have here? Oh, speaking of baseball, I just real quick and to lighten things up for just 1 second. This is a few days old in the Wall Street Journal, but they did this for football a few years ago, and I remember telling you, they figured out how much time in an actual football game there is action going on that in any way moves things forward. So, you take out the huddles, you take out the whatever. You take out all the flags, all the timeouts, all of this and that. And it turns out that, there's next to no actual action in a football game. Well, they did the same for baseball. Now, baseball, as you know, is a slow game. When they did the NFL study, they found that the average action time for a football game, so that's out of 60 minutes, the actual time when anything was really happening was 11 minutes. And if you think that, okay, take that 60 minutes plus put all the other things in there, and then you end up with almost 3 hours of time, right? Right? Yeah. That there's really only 11 minutes where the ball is in play. That's it. So, given baseball's slow pace, what is the actual time in the course of what is usually a 3-hour game? That's about an average, too. Amazingly, there's more action in a baseball game. 17 minutes and 58 seconds of action on average over the course. So 18 minutes, essentially. Compared to football's 11. So Major League Baseball does actually have more action than Major League Football. 7 minutes more. So I just found that fascinating. They said that if they had in their analysis cut the definition of what action was down to just the time when everyone on the field is running around looking for something to do, whether balls are in play, runners are advancing, a pitcher's throwing, a batter's hitting, and actually that's a tighter definition than the one they used. Baseball would be down to just 5 minutes and 47 seconds of action. But when you add up all the pitcher, and the time between pitches, the time between the batter, the time between batters, it's just unbelievable. But that's something that I actually like about baseball. That when you go to a baseball game, there's just something. It's I don't know. I like the pace. I love it. Anyway. Oh, and one other baseball thing. I came upon this. Oh, this was about the fact that a Pittsburgher has become like the president of the American mustache something wearers of America. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
This is I usually go by the antonym, the name of like Tea Party Dave here in Pittsburgh. I'm just watching you on the computer here.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I'm just calling is just really fast here. I'll just mention I like baseball. Let me just tell you why. Because it's relaxing. I think I don't get all hyped up and
that's it.
You know, like where you're watching football. Every time there's a play, you almost have to cringe or hope that everything goes well, and you're having a heart attack, and then you have to cuss and swear whenever everything goes bad. But in baseball, you can sort of relax. And
you know what, though? They talk about this, exactly that. The thing that makes football more heart-pounding is not really that there's more action, is that there are fewer games, so that everything is invested. You know, there's so many baseball games that, again, that adds to the sort of, it takes down the level of anxiety in any one game. But every football game is really important. Right? That's part of it, too.
Yeah, right. Because, well, in baseball, you always know that, well, like tonight, there's going to be a baseball game.
I know.
For a long time. And let's just hope that the Buccos don't follow their normal routine and fall to last place in the second half.
Don't say it. It would have to be just the most amazing collapse. Well, let's not even talk about it. It's not going to happen.
Okay, let me just go to the real fast. Let me go to my other subject here, because I hope this maybe, you know, like I said, this will go into something good. I hear all this stuff, you know, we're going on and on about the George Zimmerman and the Trayvon Martin thing. Do you know, I just happened to see it posted here just recently, the story about the little girl that was abducted in the car and the kids chased him on the bicycle and actually got the guy they were following him on his bicycle, and the guy released the little girl. I don't know if they actually even caught.
This just happened?
It happened a couple days ago. And the little girl, I just saw it posted this morning. The little girl was a little 5-year-old white girl. You know, the kids chasing them on the bike were black.
And they managed to get her, save her?
Yeah, they chased the guy. Apparently the guy picked up the little girl in the car, abducted her, little 5-year-old, and they showed the kid on one of them anyway. He was a black kid, chased them on their bicycles.
That's a great story.
How come we don't hear that story?
I don't know.
And we're going on and on and on and on and on about.
I don't know.
There's a perfect story there.
Yeah.
And the media ignores it.
Hey, thank you for that. Thanks very much.
I saw it posted on I saw it on my Facebook page.
Okay, I'll look for it. Hey, thank you very much, and go Bucks!
Right. Thanks.
Bye. Well, the only other baseball thing I was going to say is that this mustache, they gave the greatest sports mustache ever worn in greatest sports mustache. They gave that to Keith Hernandez. Baseball. What do you mean, Keith Hernandez? That isn't bull. I just want to say to I mean, if you're looking at a mustache in baseball, remember Raleigh Fingers? Do you remember Raleigh Fingers? He had one of those, you know, like a barbershop quartet mustache. What, Hernandez? I don't know. Never mind. I just thought, for you baseball fans out there, that was my sense. Ray has written, and we always pay attention when Ray writes. Lynn, I've written to you before about this, but allow me to be redundant. Why shouldn't I? I'm redundant all the time. As a white, middle-aged white, I think you have white, you're very white apparently, as a white, middle-aged white, concealed gun permitted male. Whoa. As a white, middle-aged, concealed gun permitted male living in an urban setting, I want to say that the elephant in the room that needs to be talked about is our own militarized police state. That's a huge subject, yes. It seems ridiculous to me to watch protests that are designed to decry the knee-jerk assumption that every young black man is a threat, when in fact these very protests are conducted while the police stand around the protest area armed like they were watching a Taliban rally. That's right. Absolutely right. We have 9/11 to thank for this. We are inundated every day, time and time again, with the well-honed message from our own government that it is unsafe to deal with inner-city black people, that we must equip our cops with helmets, goggles, balaclavas, flak jackets, machine guns, armored cars, and secret drones. When the cops come to my white little part of the world in Lawrenceville, they stroll up, waving to their friends and relatives, and ask politely what's going on, like Andy Griffith in Mayberry. I assure you this is not how they respond to a call in St. Clair Village. If we want our citizens to stand down, not stand our ground, I suggest we start with the people who work for us first. We have the power to tell them to stop. And if they are not up to the task, we should find some who are. Well, Ray, you bring up just a huge subject there. And, you know, this comes, I think Chris Potter pointed this out on Wednesday, that this comes while there is an effort by the police union to exempt the police from the residency requirement, which all city workers have to live in the city. They don't want to have to. If any city worker should live in the city, it is the police. And did you see the picture of the new police class being sworn in the other day? I dare you to look at that picture. There was rows of fresh new cops taking the oath. There was not one black face. Not one. My friend who told me the story of her interaction with one of Pittsburgh's finest lives in Homewood. And as you know, the police are present there quite often. And as Ray suggests, it's not a Andy Griffith Mayberry presence. And after she told me the story she told me about what happened downtown, she said, you know, when the cops come into Homewood with their, you know, all these police cars and they've got people on the ground and they're doing this and they're doing that, she says the kids, the children who live in Homewood come out to watch. She has seen this often. The little kids stand there and they watch these police do what they do. And then the police go away. And she had an idea. She said, why don't they always have a police officer who stays behind and talks to the kids about what they had just done, why they had done it, and establishes a, you know, so kids, I know that was scary maybe, and here's what happened, and here's why. And what she's talking about is that excuse me, community-oriented policing, where the police are part of the community, and Pittsburgh cops don't do it. More important in policing now than being some tough guy who gets to wear all these goggles and flak jackets, more important is the social service aspect of their jobs. And clearly their training here is abysmal. and Pittsburgh's failure to not even have black people on the police force. There's no one in that recruitment class that I could see in that picture that was black. Maybe there's one. I don't know. I couldn't see one. So you have... Why wouldn't black citizens of the city feel as if they were living in a police state made up of white, scary white cops who every once in a while kill one of their children or almost kill one of their children? What a failure. What an extraordinary failure. I know I have to take a break. Hang on. Ray, you're prolific today. Ray has written again. Claiming baseball only has action when the ball is actually in play is like claiming the anxiety of falling out of an airplane is only the last second when you hit the ground. Well, yeah. No. And and the Wall Street Journal would agree because what they called action is a lot of other stuff to get to the 11 minutes of action or the 17 or whatever the hell they ended up with, 17, I think. 18. Is the action every practice swing a batter takes? I mean, but if you think about it and you're sitting at PNC and most times you look out onto the field, you see a large green expanse with a few men scattered around, standing around in it. That's what, I love it. I love the game. But, I mean, come on. It's why I sometimes bring a newspaper. You can get stuff done during a baseball game. And in between those stretches of nothing, there are heart-clenching moments, right? Where every pitch is like your heart is pounding. Although, as I said, because there are so many games, when you lose a baseball game, you don't have to go, into Western Psych to get treated because there's always another game until you get to the end, and then there isn't. But, football, with its much shorter schedule, every game has more riding on it. Anyway, I'll take this last break. We'll be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, great deals on Jerome Bettis Grill vouchers. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Sewickley Med Spa is proud to announce the availability of the revolutionary Tripolar Apollo treatment in Pittsburgh. As seen on Dr. Oz, Tripolar Apollo will reduce wrinkles, tighten and firm skin on your face, neck, abdomen, and thighs. This is a non-surgical, pain-free lunchtime procedure. Call today for a free consultation, 412-259-8628, or online at sewickleymedspa.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right, we are back. I haven't talked about this, but there was a lot of news the other day about the fact that McDonald's, which needs no further introduction, I suspect, McDonald's teamed up with Visa to create for their employees a sample budget showing their employees how they should use their hard-earned pennies to live. And all hell has broken loose about this because I guess one of the main things that this budget showed is it is impossible to live on what McDonald's pays you. It is impossible. They actually created a budget and forgot to put in food and heat.
Well, You just eat at McDonald's.
Well, yes, you can just freebies at McDonald's. You could just, eat at McDonald's and, buy a blanket, for God's sakes. They also said that apparently you should work 2 full-time jobs to produce the income in the stupid sample budget. Okay. Now, I bring this up because this is, first of all, and there's something, the piece I read about this by a law professor named Paul Campos, he was most outraged by the idea that McDonald's would be lecturing its ill-paid employees about how to handle the little money that they are paid. It's condescending and presumes that these people don't know how to live on nothing. I assure McDonald's they're pretty damn good at it. It's people like me who wouldn't know. And he said this: the poor don't need financial advice. They need higher wages. And something akin to that, it's a piece that was in the Washington Post by Harold Meyerson, pointing out, and it was reprinted in the Post-Gazette today, pointing out how U.S. taxpayers subsidize Walmart, essentially. Walmart pays low wages to its workers, and an extraordinary percentage of its workers rely on food stamps to feed their families and rely on Medicaid for their health care, which are both taxpayer, right? Those are taxpayer programs, subsidized programs. So Walmart is able to be the gazillionaire in the Walmart family, the Walton family, and it's because they reap the benefits of the welfare that is paid to their employees so their employees can eat. Meyerson says, by paying so little, Walmart, and you can argue McDonald's, all of these guys, impels thousands of its employees to use food stamps to feed their families, Medicaid to pay their doctor's bills. It compels taxpayers to pick up a tab that wouldn't even exist if the company paid its workers enough to keep them out of poverty. So there it is. Insanity. Insanity rules the day. Laura writes, it would be interesting to know how many black men and women applied to and were accepted to the police academy. I enjoy your excitement, but hope your blood pressure doesn't do you in. Don't worry, I'm fully medicated, Laura, and I intend to... And my blood pressure is low, but it is. Anyway, the ACLU here is actually suing the city about the fact that the whole process denies blacks equal access to get their foot in the door in terms of the testing that's required, in terms of the oral interview process. That it's a system that, in fact, allows for the existing, white officers to get their buddies' kids, if you're white and have any kind of a connection, you're getting in. If you're black, the ACLU's case documents how very qualified black applicants didn't get in, and less qualified whites did. Oh, man. So, that's it. Tom writes, Sokolowski, As Marie Antoinette once said, let them eat Big Macs. Actually, that's interesting you should say that, because I think somebody else did make a comment very much like that, and I wish I could find it. Only it wasn't Big Macs, it was something else. But there it is. The unbelievable contempt for people who we just keep pushing further down. We're going to pay you nothing. Then we're going to lecture you on how to use that nothing. It's really sickening. I have not yet had time to read it, but my friend Jeanne Marie Laskas' article in GQ about Vice President Joe Biden has been getting tons of press, and I do have the piece, and I guess I'll read it over the weekend. Maybe we can even have Jeanne Marie stop by. I'm going to see her later this week. She's extremely busy, and it's making news because of some things that the vice president told her in the course of her spending a great deal of time with him. When Jeanne Marie does a story, she immerses herself in the topic and subject. And so she was traveling with the vice president. And this was at a time when the new pope was installed. And Biden went over to be the head of the U.S. delegation. So Jeanne Marie got to go too. And she was there sitting in the, I remember her excitedly telling me, so I was sitting there right with the vice president, and he told me to come along. And I could tell she really likes the guy. I guess it's hard to know Joe Biden and not really like him. That the Joe Biden you see is the Joe Biden that exists, sort of like Mr. Rogers in that respect. The public and the private man are genuinely one and the same, which is often not true of people in the public eye. Okay, that's it. I do want to point out that the National Journal, magazine, had a fascinating piece in essentially saying that Tom Corbett might not even seek re-election, that he's so disliked and so far down that he's under pressure from Republicans in Pennsylvania to step aside, that they would do better with someone just coming. That is just Republicans, and it says here, Republicans expect the calls for Corbett to step aside to reach a fever pitch if his popularity does not show improvement in the coming months. According to one GOP operative in the state, speculation about replacing the governor is rampant. They are saying that they think he's headed for a historic landslide loss. The party chairman here, Rob Gleason, is absolutely saying this is all a bunch of nonsense, and of course we are standing with the governor and fully expect him to seek and win re-election. But says here most Republicans in Pennsylvania don't share that view. And one said, actually, the situation is worse than the one faced by Rick Santorum in 2006, when, as you know, he lost his re-election bid by 20 points. And on that piece of good news, we bid this week a fond adieu and look forward to getting together again on Monday. Have a cooler weekend and go Bucks.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.